Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Today is Thursday, May 2nd, 2019. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. So, starting the show a couple minutes late for two reasons. One is a good reason. The other reason is I was playing Risk on my phone, and I lost track of time. So, starting the show like 2-3 minutes late. The good reason, the great reason, is that the show is growing unless we have more of you asking questions. And I had to write down the questions because there were 5 of them. My memory is good for like 2 to 3, but I wasn't going to remember 5. At least I wasn't going to feel confident in remembering 5. So, real quick recap. Yesterday, got through a bunch of work, recorded a Thursday episode with a past guest who had come back. That was fun. That'll air in a couple weeks. Did some errands, went to the gym, coached some CrossFit, hung out with friends, ate some ice cream. It was a good day. It was a really good day. Yeah. So let's get to these questions. Bam. Okay. Where do you draw the line between someone who is angry or frustrated and someone who's being a bully? I think the line comes with the intent. If someone's angry, if someone's frustrated, you can tell often that the intention of their actions is defensive, that they are lashing out because they're hurt or scared or whatever. You know, consider a wounded animal. They withdraw and they will lash out because it's the only way they know how to react to that moment. When someone's angry and frustrated, quite often they will withdraw, and we often will push them, prod them, try to get them to respond, much like the animal in the corner. Doesn't work well for everyone, right? So that's when they can become aggressive. A bully will seek out the opportunity to treat people poorly. Maybe not every time, but I think that that's the easiest way to define the difference. And there's certainly going to be some overlap. It's never okay for someone to treat you poorly or physically harm you, whether it's out of anger or they're bullying you or they're frustrated. It doesn't matter what the reason is. It's never okay. But the intent does matter. How the degree of unacceptability. If I find out that someone has, been through something personally traumatic, and then, maybe they're not kind to me, I'll let that go. If someone's just being a jerk, I'm not going to let that go. All right, next question. What's the easiest martial arts weapon? The easiest weapon to learn, I grew up believing it was a bow, a staff, but I've changed my mind over the last couple of years. It's a single stick. Much like the rattan sticks that you would think of for Filipino martial arts. It's easiest because it's the hardest to hurt yourself with. It's the easiest because we all know how to swing a stick. We grow up doing that. And so much of the technique, much of the physical mechanics of swinging a single stick are things that we've learned how to do, just innately. The philosophy, the strategy behind it might be very different. But I don't think there's anything that's simpler. If you could do one martial art for the rest of your life, what would it be? Ugh, that's so mean. Such a mean question. Especially asking of someone who is actively training in 4. 4? Yeah, 4. Here's how I would look at that. It would have to be a traditional martial art. It would style. See, there's a lot of semantics that could go into this question that could give me flexibility in what I'm training in. But I have to be honest, when I think about training, when I think about what really resonates for me, there's a very strong traditional element. There's a likely what we think of as a Japanese or Okinawan philosophy towards the training. So I think just based on my experience and the fact that this question kind of forces me to answer it, some form of karate. Should strength training be mandatory as part of martial arts training? No, because I'm not a big fan of making anything mandatory. But I think it's something that benefits everyone, whether or not they're martial artists. I think it's something that is especially relevant to the majority of goals that people have as martial artists. Most people that start training martial arts don't do it strictly for self-defense. They do it for because they want to feel better, they want to look better, they want to be healthier, et cetera, et cetera. And weight training, resistance training, strength training all support those goals, honestly. If you're talking the physical side, better than the way most martial arts classes are taught. If you were to make a list of all the things that people are looking to improve with their bodies physically, nothing is better than strength training for achieving those goals. But it's not for everybody, and that's okay. And now, the one I'm saving a bit of time for. Do you train or practice martial arts? So the question is, which verb is more appropriate for martial arts? And I spent some time considering this one this morning. You train for a goal. You practice when you don't have a goal. If I'm training for a competition, or training for a match, or training for an event, right? The word practice doesn't fit in well there. I don't practice for a competition. I don't practice for a match. I don't practice for an event. I train for them. But if you think of other places where we use the word practice, I'm practicing my forms. I'm not training my forms. You train for something, right? I mean, that's often the word that follows. What are you training for? I'm not training for anything. I'm just training to do something. I'm training to that those words don't tend to work. I mean, they could. It's just cat, you're fine. It's just how we tend to use the words. Could we do that differently? Stacy was writing in, I'm practicing medicine or a legal practice. Yeah, exactly. And honestly, those were some of the things I was thinking of. Practice is an effort to develop a skill for the sake of developing the skill. But those same lawyers, those same doctors, when they're in school, they're not practicing their training. So I think if we look at it that way too, we can make some comments about training being to reach. Well, it doesn't always apply this way. I was going to say you could sometimes say that training is to reach a certain threshold and practice is to maintain your status on the other side of that threshold. But that doesn't really apply because, well, you could say I'm training for my black belt test, for a rank test, but you're not going to say I'm practicing. Well, you could. I'm practicing my forms so I can be ready for my rank test. Yeah, see, in that case, they almost come out interchangeably depending on how you're looking at it. It's an interesting question, and it's one that I would like, even though I've offered my answer, I'd like you to contemplate your own answer. What are the things you do in life that you are training for something? What are the things that you are simply practicing? Practicing, creating a habit, maintaining a status. Because I think the difference is the amount of, effort or energy that we're going to apply to them. When we're training for something, it implies that there's a temporary status. Thus, we're more willing to throw some effort at it. If we're practicing something, we tend to look for the most efficient way to do that. If I'm, what's something else? What's something simple? If I'm practicing standing on one foot, I'm probably not going to stand on one foot for hours on end. It's a skill I have. I'll do it long enough to make sure I'm maintaining it. Scott wrote something in. What was that? First, Scott says, for me, practicing is the same as maintaining. Training is working towards improvement. Yeah, I think that's fairly close to what I'm saying, and I agree. But I think it bears examination in your life. Where are you training? Where are you practicing? You can't train everything at the same time, but you should always have something that you're training for, because that training, that additional effort, is what's going to move you forward, whether it's martial arts or something completely different. I like this one. I'm going to think about this one. Good questions today, guys. I appreciate that. So, what's happening today? It's a consulting day. I'll be on the road, going to the gym this evening, and got some martial arts stuff coming up this weekend. I'll tell you about that tomorrow. So don't forget, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, because we do this show every weekday morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. And if you want to leave a question or a comment for me, the best place to do it is right below on this, in this YouTube thing, in the comments below. It was really cool to wake up and see that so many questions from everyone. If you want to catch the show later, best way to do it is in your podcast feed. It's all over the place. First Cup with Jeremy. And of course, you can catch it at firstcupwithjeremy.com. There's an embedded link for the most recent video episode there. The show is growing, which is super cool. I'm seeing that on the back end. So, share it. You know a martial artist, you know somebody who drinks coffee and might appreciate some interesting things to contemplate. Well, let them know about this show. Today's Thursday, so there's a podcast episode out for Martial Arts Radio. I don't remember what it is because I keep forgetting to check. Sensei Ando was last Thursday. Scott's going to check. If you do want to check out Martial Arts Radio, which we're coming up on episode 400, you can find it here on YouTube in any of your podcast feeds or at whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. Scott's like my sidekick. Oh, yeah, this one should irritate some people. The problems with the way self-defense is taught. We're on this self-defense and violence and reality kick on the show lately, which people seem to be digging. So, offered up some of my personal thoughts. I hope you have a great day. I hope whatever you're doing, hope it's enjoyable. I hope that your trainings go well and your practices are efficient. And I'll see you back here tomorrow.